Welcome to all techies. I'm Pankaj Rai, and in this video, I'm going to talk about few of the Android interview questions. In the part 1 of it, I've talked about few of the most commonly asked questions, and here I'm going to talk about few more Android interview questions. So let's start with the first question. What is the difference between live data, mutable live data, and mediator live data? So all three are really an important concept because if you are using MVVM architecture, then you might have encountered this either live data, mutable live data, or mediator live data while creating the application. So when to use what? Live data is a data observer, which is lifecycle aware, which means that the moment you set it on the activity or fragment, it understands the life cycle of activity or fragment and then emits the value. And the major difference between the live data and mutable live data is live data doesn't have a capability to set the value. You can only observe the value on live data, but you cannot set the value. If you want to change the value, then you have to use mutable live data. And then eventually you could again set a listener on it. And the moment you change the value for the mutable live data, you could get the result on the screen because you might have set an observer again. Mediator live data is a concept where if you want to have multiple live data but listener only attached to single live data, then mediator live data is really good in that case, where you could have multiple live data, all of them are passed to the mediator live data, and if any of the value changes for any of those mutable live data, then that mediator live data is going to give you the value back on the activity or fragment. Now let's talk about the MVVM architecture. So MVVM architecture is one of the recommended architecture for making Android application. And the reason for this is because of the lifecycle aware components that we have. And the way it works is, say you have a view, those views nothing but the activity or fragment that will interact with the view model. That view model in turn interact with the model. So at any point of time, we will not have any link between the view and the model. View model will always be the intermediary for the view and the model. And one of the things which you might have seen in many of the project is that we have a concept of repo. So we create repository because through that repository we update the model. And this is really a good concept because say if you are using retrofit for a network call and tomorrow if you want to switch to volley, then in that case you do not need to do much changes for your view or for view model. All those sort of changes will be done in the repository, and just have to link that repository again back to the view model, and there will not be any such changes in the view. So by this way you make a plug and play component. Can KMM be used to develop cross-platform application? So the answer is quite no, because multi-platform mobile application is a bit different from cross-platform application, where from a single code base you can create Android or iOS application, just like Flutter. You have a single code base, and through that you could create Android or iOS application. But here with multi-platform, it's a bit different, where you write common piece of code at one place, and you have to write the platform specific code for Android or iOS manually, and they have to be written individually for both of them. So it's not like one code base for both the platform. Now let's talk about the difference between the library with an extension of KTX and without that extension. I'm sure in many of the places you might have seen when you implement the library, nowadays you might be seeing there is a version with the KTX also. So what's the difference between that and the normal like we used before? So those library without KTX is good for Java, and those with KTX is really good for Kotlin, because this adds the flavor of Kotlin to the APIs. So the way you might be accessing it in Java that may differs when you use it in Kotlin using the KTX version. This will further enhance the way you use those APIs. And in certain scenario, it may even add more features like with Work Manager. Rather than extending normal worker, here you could extend the coroutine worker, which in turn give you the suspending function. And in that suspending function, you could either call another suspending function or the coroutine builder. What is memory leak? So now let's talk about the memory leak. Memory leak is a concept where, say that once you move out from the activity and that activity is killed, but still if you have the reference for that activity or the fragment, then GC cannot collect or deallocate the memory allocated for that. And that's the place where we see it's a memory leak, because once you exit from the particular screen, all the memory which is allocated for it should get deallocated also. But here, if you have a context which has been used at some other place and that is not been killed, then GC cannot clean the memory for it. And by this way, you end up with no usage anywhere, but still memory has to be allocated because GC understand that this might be getting used at some other place. So it will not collect the memory for that particular activity or fragment. And this is really a good example. So if you pass the activity or fragment context in the view model, then there is a very high chance that you may end up with a memory leak, because view model have a capability to survive the configuration change, which means that your activity might have got killed, but still you have a context of that with the view model. So GC will not able to deallocate the memory for it. And by this way, you will end up with memory leak. So do not pass the context of activity or fragment in the view model. Rather, if you want to use the context, then we have the context that is for the application context when you extend it to Android view model rather than the normal view model. So without adding touch listener to the activity, is it possible to intercept the touch? And this is really a good concept, because if you want to have a timeout kind of stuff where you want to specify that after a certain period of time, if user do not do any action, you have to log out the user, then this is really useful. So we have an overridden method called as on user interaction, and this gets triggered every time when user touch on the screen. So based on this function, you could add that kind of logic where based on certain period of time, if there is no interaction, you could log out the user. Now let's talk about what is Kotlin Flow. So Kotlin Flow is really a very good concept by the Kotlin, and this is the stream APIs, and they allows you for the asynchronous flow of data, and they are all cold streams, which means that until unless you are collecting the data or observing the value, it's not going to emit the value. So this is really a very good concept for the asynchronous flow of data. What is Work Manager? So Work Manager is the replacement for all sort of scheduling mechanism that we had earlier, like GCM scheduler, Firebase job dispatcher, job schedulers. We do not need all of them now with Work Manager. This provides you the guaranteed deferred execution, which means that after a certain period of time, it guarantees you that your work will get executed. And the best part is you can also schedule the work using Work Manager. So it's not like just a one-time work request. And even if your app got killed, device got restarted, still it will able to execute the work which you have given to it. So by this way, Work Manager is really powerful scheduling mechanism. However, if you want a very accurate scheduling mechanism like for the alarm clock, then still using Alarm Manager is a preferred solution. Now let's talk about how you can toggle the Wi-Fi right from the application instead of switching to the system application or toggling from the notification panel. So there is a setting panels available from Android API 29 and above, where you can show user just like a bottom sheet, and from there they can toggle between the internet, not just turning on and off. They can even switch to different Wi-Fi, or they can switch to NFC devices or change the volumes. All sort of things they can do from Android API level 29 and above using the settings panel. So the next question is like, how can push notification be added for Android apps? So for push notification, it is important to use the FCM. FCM is one of the services offered by Firebase. And if you want to add this, then you just need to create the project on Firebase add the dependency for FCM, and just register the Firebase messaging service. In this service, you will get the token, just override the on new token on message received, and in those places you will see either a new token whenever it gets generated, and on message received is going to give you the new message as soon as you get any new notification. And that's it for this interview set of questions. And for many of the questions which I've talked about, like the Kotlin flow, then also about the work manager, so I have created the tutorial videos on that. If you want to know more about it, then do check out those videos. I'll give link in the description. So thank you, and stay tuned for the upcoming videos. And if you haven't subscribed this channel, then do hit the subscribe button so that you will not miss the notification for the upcoming videos. Thank you.